Today from the global lane, a shocking election result in Europe. Are dark forces on the rise? Orwellian nightmare. Big Brother watching, rewarding, and punishing citizens in China. In Pakistan, false allegations of blasphemy. Muslim mobs on a rampage out for Christian blood. Targeting black babies for abortion. Is the Supreme Court inching closer to overturning Roe v. Wade? And it's all right here, right now, from the global lane. After a strong showing by political parties skeptical of the European Union in last week's European elections, European politicians are now fighting over who will be the next EU leader. But as Dale Hurd reports, the European Union has much bigger problems.
Leaders met in Brussels Tuesday to survey the wreckage from last week's disastrous European Parliament elections. Eurosceptic right-wing parties are poised to become the second biggest bloc in Parliament, as the big three of France, Germany, and the UK all took hits. French President Emmanuel Macron's party lost to Marine Le Pen, a woman the French media consistently portrays as a public menace. Angela Merkel reportedly is canceling her plan to retire rather than risk seeing her ruling coalition in Germany fall apart. British Prime Minister Theresa May announced she's stepping down in June after her mishandling of the UK's exit from the European Union dragged the Conservative Party to a historic crushing defeat at the hands of Nigel Farage's Brexit Party.
This election result could change everything because it could set Brussels on a new course that is much less centralized and much more anti-migrant.
Some say what's coming is political gridlock.
Is you now have with these sovereignty movements what I call command by negation. You certainly have a critical mass that can start to block things. And as I say, I think every day is going to be, in Brussels, is going to be Stalingrad.
Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, now working in Europe, says to have maximum impact, right-wing groups will need to form a super party. And that will be difficult. But the ruling establishment in Europe is understandably scared.
Everywhere the extremes are rising. And what are they thriving on? On fear, on lies, the help of foreign powers who want to destroy the European project.
In Britain, where many expect Boris Johnson to take over from May, Farage is warning against a further delay on Brexit.
If we do not leave the European Union on October the 31st, then just as we've surprised people in these European elections, we will go forward and absolutely stun them in the next general election.
And on the continent, where this election was supposed to be a referendum on Europe's destiny, it's clear that the old status quo in Brussels is over.
Dale joins us here in studio with more. So, Dale, you know, we had this election in 2016 where Trump was elected, obviously, anti-establishment candidate. Seems like a similar thing in Europe now. Is this only temporary?
Well, interesting you brought up Trump, because Trump is a bit of an inspiration for the people in Europe who oppose the heavy-handedness of Brussels. And Macron just complained the other day about outside forces that want to wreck the European project. Look, the people that voted for these right-wing groups that are now the second biggest bloc are what I call Europe's deplorables. These are people that are fed up and they go out and protest. Some lose jobs, they lose friends because they take a public stand. But you're seeing more and more the silent majority in Europe, people that wouldn't admit they're voting for some of these right-wing parties that are. Now, there's nothing wrong with these parties. They would be similar to the Republican Party in the United States in many cases. But Europe is so far left that, you know, and the media is controlled by the left, and it paints these parties as very extreme and dangerous.
Well, let's look at some specifics. What about the issue of immigration? Did that play a role in this?
It does, in the form of general fear among the Europeans of crime, of economic disruption, of the welfare state in some of these countries is running out of money because they've spent so much on immigrants. So that is a big, big issue.
I know an Iraqi Christian who complained to me he can't get into Germany now. That's a bit of a change over maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it is, considering all the dangerous people and former ISIS fighters that have made it into Germany. And one of the things that I've covered that we'll be showing in an upcoming report is the cover-up of crime in Germany, migrant crime, the police changing the records or just expunging the records altogether so that this stuff doesn't show up in the data, just how bad the migrant crime problem is.
And I don't think that's what Angela Merkel was talking about when she said dark forces are going to take over Europe. What was she referring to?
Yeah, well, we call that a Svengali routine. She's putting a spell on people, especially Germans, that are understandably afraid of their nation's history. They don't want it to come back. And so the left in Germany and people like Merkel, they use this to manipulate and put fear into people. Oh, you better be careful, because if these right-wing parties come back, even though these parties are democratic and pro-Israel, they're dangerous.
Now, what about Brexit now? How does it, Nigel Farage said that, it looks like if Brexit doesn't happen in October, there's going to be a price to be paid at the polls.
Well, and there probably will be. As I predicted a year ago, Boris Johnson would be the next prime minister.
You did predict that. I remember that.
It's not as clear because everybody's got their knives out for each other. And by the way, Theresa May's not my favorite, prime minister of all time. But her problem was her cabinet and her party, when it comes to Brexit, it's like herding cats. You can't get everybody on board. And even though Boris Johnson, is for Brexit, he's going to have the same problem if he's prime minister. So we may very well see this drag out through the summer and see a Farage candidacy for prime minister in the future.
And it's all going to come to a head in the fall, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Dale Hurd, thank you. We appreciate you keeping us on top of this in Europe.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us Regent.
It's like an Orwellian nightmare. The Chinese Communist Party is using advanced technology to secure government control over the lives of nearly everyone in that society. It's moving quickly to set up a system of social credits based on each person's perceived behaviors and attitudes. Stephen Mosier is author of the book Bully of Asia, Why China's Dream is the New Threat to World Order. And he recently wrote an article for the New York Post on China's social credit system. Stephen, it's good to see you again. So it seems like it's Big Brother all over again, 1984. Explain for us how technological advances are creating an Orwellian-like society in China.
Well, Big Brother in China is watching all the time. It's watching through video surveillance cameras. It's watching where you go, what you do, what you buy, who you talk to on WeChat and Twitter and other communication devices in China. It's really 24/7 surveillance. And not only that, Gary, they actually give you what's called a social credit score based on how trustworthy they think you are. If you're saying nice things about China's president for life, Xi Jinping, your social credit score goes up. If you're saying critical things about the government, your social credit score goes down, and that can affect you in literally dozens of ways.
What impact does that have on the society there with this social credit system?
Well, anyone who gets a low social credit score, if they go to buy an airplane ticket, they'll be turned away at the ticket line. They have to travel by slow train, not bullet train. So one person recently thought he would fly from Beijing down to Canton, 3-hour flight, had to take the slow train, 30 hours stop and go. That's punishment, Gary. That's real punishment. If your social credit score is too low, of course, your ringtone changes, and when people call you, they hear a police siren and a warning, be careful in your dealings with this person. If your social credit score is too low, your children can't get into good schools. You can't get a low interest rate loan, or maybe no loan at all, to buy a home or a car. And you can't get a job because people will see you're politically unreliable. So it affects your life in a myriad of ways. And I'll tell you what, there are reports that if people's credit score drops too low, the government actually preemptively sends them to re-education camps, not because they've committed a crime, but because the government thinks that they may be about to commit a crime and arrests them and re-educates them in advance.
Make sure they're good communists, I guess. So Christians have said this means the government is monitoring them closely as they come and go from prayer meetings. Now, how is the government using artificial intelligence and facial recognition software in its crackdown on churches, Stephen?
Well, China has more surveillance cameras than any other country in the world. They're collecting all the electronic information, all the transmissions from everybody's cell phones. They're collecting retinal scans, DNA information, fingerprints. They put that all into a massive database, which they then use artificial intelligence to sort out who's doing suspicious things. Now, the other thing that happens is it's a mutual surveillance system. You can actually raise your social credit score by reporting on what the government considers the misdeeds of others. So if you are a person who sees a local home church holding a meeting in someone's home and you report that to the authorities, your social credit score goes up. So this is really everybody watching everybody else all the time. Makes it very difficult for even small home churches to survive in this draconian environment.
Wow, that's a tough society for people, complete control over their lives, spying on one another. So to what extent are American companies helping China accomplish this?
Well, we know that the face recognition technology sold to China for the video surveillance camera system came from an American company. Google, thankfully, may be getting out of the business of helping to refine China's artificial intelligence, which is used to massage this huge mass of data and pick out troublesome people like Christians and others for particular attention and lowering their social credit score. By the way, just being a Christian in atheistic China under the misrule of the atheistic Communist Party is a big hit to your social credit score.
Okay, I've got to ask you this then finally, Stephen. What is the concern about this happening eventually here in America? We're already seeing censorship of conservatives and Christians on social media. Are social credits a stretch here, or might that system come to the USA?
Well, that's what we don't want to happen. We know that China is selling its big data, artificial intelligence, algorithm to other countries. Maduro's Venezuela, for example, was one of the first buyers. So we certainly don't want that here. But what we are in, Gary, is a 21st century version of the old Cold War. But the adversary is not Russia. The adversary of the 20th century, the adversary is the People's Republic of China. And if China comes to dominate the 21st century, we can expect that this surveillance system and social credit score and all that will be coming to many other countries, including perhaps our own. So it's very important that we understand what the real threat is here. That's why we've set up the Committee on the Present Danger of China in Washington, D.C., to warn Americans that China has a very different view of how society should be organized. They're turning their entire country into a prison camp with sort of invisible barriers using modern techniques of big data and artificial intelligence. We don't want that prison camp to be extended to our shores.
Okay, the world is watching. Stephen Mosier, we appreciate you. You're the author of The Bully of Asia. We thank you for your insights.
Thank you, Gary.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Just days ago, a Christian family in Pakistan, falsely accused of blasphemy, barely escaped with their lives from a rampaging Muslim mob. It's another example of how disputes in Pakistan often result in beatings and false imprisonment for Christians, while their Muslim accusers and attackers go free. It happened to Farzan and Naveed Masih. They're safe now, but they and other Christian families were forced to flee their homes recently near Lahore. Well, joining us from London with more is Wilson Chowdhury. He's the chairman of the British Pakistani Christians Association. So, Wilson, tell us what happened that caused a Muslim mob to falsely accuse this Christian family of blasphemy.
A Muslim man, was using a phone outside the Christian family's home. During the conversation, he was using several expletives. The eldest son from the home decided to politely ask the man to move away from their home, because it was disturbing and concerning some members of the family. At which point the Muslim man punched the Christian man in the face, and a fight ensued. The family grabbed their son and brought him inside. A threat was made, however, that revenge would be sought. And later that evening, from the tannoys of local mosques, a call was made to extricate all Christians from the community.
Well, now I understand that they're safe now. Are they still in police custody? What's the latest?
We've been working with the police force, and we've been working with Muslim leaders in the community, trying to bring about peace. We hope that they will be released shortly, the men on bail. They've been accused of attempted murder despite evidence, including videos, that would suggest that they were innocents who simply ran away from the mob who were attacking them. None of the mob who attacked them have been arrested. The usual mob rule has taken place. We're trying to do it in a diplomatic fashion because we know that if we go down the legal route, it may be these Muslims will continue with their charges. We're trying to peaceably, through a conversation, get those charges removed.
Will the Christians be able to return to their home and village?
It's very difficult to say. You can imagine now a mosque has preached a blasphemy. That family has had to flee. They're in hiding. We're supporting them thus far. But again, like most other Christians who are attacked in this manner, the animosity, the residual animosity continues. And more likely than not, they will have to flee to a new area once set free from jail.
Now, Wilson, I know there was another recent case of injustice involving a murdered Christian couple, Shazad Masih, his wife Shama Bibi. Remind us what happened to these brick kiln workers back in 2014, I think it was.
Well, Shama and Shazad were burned alive in a kiln after having one of the most brutal attacks. They were stripped naked, they were mocked. It's believed that Shama, the wife, was gang raped before her husband. And then after being dragged along the rough terrain in a rope, while they were still alive, their 6-year-old son saw them twitching as they were burned on a brick kiln fire. This was only after they sought freedom after Shama had actually been raped by the accountant of the landlord. The ensuing case resulted in over 103 initial arrests. 93 of the men were set free in 2016. 20 were prosecuted, convicted, and 5 of them were given a death sentence. However, in March earlier this year, another 20, some of them were arrested slightly later, were also set free. And obviously now we're hearing in the last week that even 5 of those who were on a death sentence, 2 of those who were from the 5 who were convicted with a death sentence have now been set free. It wouldn't surprise me if the last 3 are eventually acquitted also. It is the way that Pakistani justice system works. If a minority gets killed in any type of anger or resentment, what ensues is a total impunity for the perpetrators of the violence. We'll have to wait and see what progresses from this. But personally, I honestly do believe that we will hear in the next year or so that the other 3 have also been acquitted.
What can we do about this? Anything?
Well, we need to pray that the rule of law takes place in Pakistan, and we need to, approach our MPs, our congressmen. We need to ask them to continue with dialogue with Pakistan, ensuring that the laws in place are enable citizens to have an equal existence, a fair existence, and one that is safe from persecution of this type. In particular, in the case of Pakistan, we need to pray and seek improvement in the education system and the opportunities that Christians face. They are the most persecuted minority, not only because of their faith, but because they're vulnerable because of their deprived status.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
The U.S. Supreme Court is inching closer to revisiting its 1973 ruling legalizing abortion throughout the United States. The High Court upheld parts of an Indiana law that requires aborted fetuses to be buried or cremated. At the same time, the justices did not rule on a lower court decision overturning that state's ban on abortions for race, gender, or disability reasons. Peter Breen of the Thomas More Society says he's still hopeful the court will soon overturn Roe v. Wade.
We think we've got a 5-justice pro-life majority. They are taking their time. They're being careful. And that, for the sake of the country, I understand why they're doing it.
Breen and other pro-lifers are encouraged by the recent opinion written by Justice Clarence Thomas. Thomas wrote a provision in Indiana's law promotes a state's compelling interest in preventing abortion from being a tool of modern-day eugenics. Once again, here's Peter Breen.
He is trying to lay a foundation so that the court, when it takes up, say, the sex selection ban from some other state, it will have a good foundation to strike down the other side's arguments, to be able to say, hey, we can prohibit these sorts of sex selection abortions, race selection abortions.
Planned Parenthood, the nation's leading abortion provider, was founded by Margaret Sanger. Was she a racist? Well, Planned Parenthood says no, but she was the editor of the magazine Birth Control Review, which published many articles advocating eugenics. And the pro-life group Live Action recorded this shocking phone conversation with the director of development at a Planned Parenthood clinic in Idaho. Here's the response when a fake donor called and said he wanted to make a donation targeting black babies.
I really face trouble with affirmative action, and I don't want my kids being disadvantaged, against black kids. I just had a baby. I want to put it in his name, so that's definitely possible.
Oh, always, always.
And we just think, the less black kids out there, the better.
Understandable. All right. Excuse my hesitation. This is the first time I've had a donor call and make this kind of request, so I'm excited, and I want to make sure I don't leave anything out.
Yes, Planned Parenthood, make sure you don't leave anything out as you target black children for genocide. Kind of reminds me of ISIS and its treatment of Yazidis and Christians. Well, did you know that African Americans make up about 13% of the U.S. population? Yet at least 36% of all abortions eliminate black children. Houston, we have a problem. Yes, Black Lives Matter, folks, for the born and unborn. As a matter of fact, the Bible tells us all lives matter. Praising God in Psalm 139, King David writes, "You formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me when as yet there were none of them." Yes, we are all fearfully and wonderfully made by the Creator. He has good things ahead for us, individually and as a nation, when we show reverence for Him and for life. Well, that's it from the Global Lane. Be sure to follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And until next time, be blessed.